The 2025 season is nearly upon us, and with Max Verstappen all but confirming his status as Drivers' Champion last time out, it's time to start getting hyped for it. New rookies, new teammates, and closer cars. Here's every single reason why 2025 could be one of the best seasons ever. New rookies. The 2025 season will see us introducing 4 brand new rookies onto the grid, so let's meet them. Starting with Gabriel Bortoleto. The 20-year-old will be driving alongside Nico Hülkenberg at Sauber next year. He's the first Brazilian driver in F1 since Felipe Massa departed the sport in 2017. He's risen through the ranks incredibly quickly as a McLaren junior driver. However, with them having Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, 2 incredibly strong drivers at the helm currently, there was no room for him to go. He's currently top of the Formula 2 championship going into the final couple of rounds, so it's no surprise that Sauber took note. And with the team about to go through a massive transition period from Sauber into Audi, they've got a very strong driver lineup of experience and youth with Hülkenberg and Bortoleto. Up next we've got Jack Doohan. The 21-year-old will be driving alongside Pierre Gasly at Alpine for next season. The Australian most recently competed in the Formula 2 championship in 2023, finishing 3rd, and then moved on to being a full-time Alpine reserve driver for this season. However, there are reports that he might not even drive for the team next year. With the rise of Franco Colapinto, many teams are taking note of him, one of which being Alpine. And it wouldn't be the first time that Alpine have botched a driver signing. Rookie number 3 is Ollie Bearman, who will be driving alongside Esteban Ocon at Haas next year. We've seen multiple cameos from the 19-year-old this season, including a performance for Ferrari at Saudi Arabia and performances for Haas at Baku and Brazil. These cameos from Bearman have come with varying success, I would say. He managed to get into the points in both of his first 2 races in Saudi Arabia and in Baku. However, his most recent performance in Brazil left a little to be desired. However, we can forgive him a little bit because the rain was barreling down and even some of the most experienced drivers in Formula 1 were making mistakes, like Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. He's currently only 15th though in the Formula 2 championship. The general consensus seems to be that Prema are having a bit of a down year, however this could be a cause for concern for Haas. And the most exciting rookie we've got coming in for next season is undoubtedly the 18-year-old Italian prodigy Andrea Kimi Antonelli. He's currently sitting in 6th place in the Formula 2 championship, and he is well and truly jumping into the deep end with a drive immediately at Mercedes. He's the first rookie to go straight into a potentially race-winning car since Lewis Hamilton in 2007, and we all saw how that went. And when it comes to driving at a Formula 1 race weekend, all we've seen from him so far is an FP1 session in Monza where he went incredibly fast and then went incredibly fast into the wall and binned it. But I can't wait to see Kimi Antonelli in Formula 1. Teammate rivalries. In the 2025 season, we're going to have some absolutely beautiful teammate rivalries to watch over. Here they are. At Ferrari, we've of course got Lewis Hamilton versus Charles Leclerc. The 7-time world champion jumping ship to the Scuderia for the 2025 season alongside Charles Leclerc, possibly one of the drivers of this generation. Ever since he's been in Formula 1, we've been seeing people saying that he is future world champion material. And now we're going to be seeing him going up against one of the best drivers of all time. This rivalry, coupled with Ferrari's late gain in performance in 2024, could be absolutely marvellous. We've also got the rivalry at the Williams team of Alex Albon versus Carlos Sainz. Now I think it's fair to say that Alex Albon has had a fairly easy run of it with teammates in Formula 1 since moving to the Williams team. Having Nicholas Latifi and Logan Sargent as his full-time teammates, you know, he was always expected to outperform them. However, with Franco Colapinto providing the first sort of challenge that we've seen Alex Albon have from a teammate more recently since jumping into that car, it's going to be incredibly interesting to see how that plays out for the rest of this season. And then moving into the 2025 season alongside Carlos Sainz, one of the top drivers on the grid, it's going to be incredibly interesting to see how Alex faces up against him. We've seen Carlos Sainz have incredibly tough opponents in his last couple of drives at McLaren and Ferrari with Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. So even though this rivalry might be a little bit further back down the field, I expect it to be an incredibly interesting one to watch. The next teammate rivalry is is Norris and Piastri, and whilst it might not be a fresh new lineup for this year, it's the third season of us seeing Oscar Piastri versus Lando Norris, and as Oscar Piastri gets better with every season, I expect to see these two being incredibly close in 2025. Oscar has managed to prove himself now as an F1 race winner, picking up 2 race wins this season. It's now time for him to develop the consistency over the full season and really take it to Lando Norris next year. Lando's of course had a very good 2024 season, however it hasn't been without its mistakes. And I think it's fair to say that the McLaren has been one of the faster cars this season, so maybe they both should have done better this season. However, next season you'd imagine they are still going to have a very fast car, and they'll have had a season of front-running performance under their belt. It'll be very interesting to see this driver lineup next year. And then I'm going to talk about the Racing Bulls and Red Bull at the same time because it's unconfirmed yet who's going to be in those seats. Starting with the Racing Bulls, if it is to be Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda for the entirety of the 2025 season, it will be incredibly interesting to watch that inter-team battle as they compete for the 2026 Red Bull seat alongside Max Verstappen. Liam Lawson has obviously jumped into that seat to replace Daniel Ricciardo to see if he's ready for a Red Bull seat for next year. And with Sergio Perez's performances being consistently below par, it will be very surprising if he remains in that seat for next year. However, saying that, he does have the contract for next year, so who really knows who's going to be alongside Max Verstappen for next year. If it is to be Sergio Perez in that Red Bull seat, that would be a little bit disappointing because we have just seen Max Verstappen absolutely trouncing him ever since he stepped into that seat. But if it is to be any of the other drivers that are in conversation for that seat, we are in for a treat. Team changes. There's a couple of big team changes that are happening for the 2025 season. Let's dive into them. It's been recently announced that Toyota are joining Haas effective immediately, however next season will be the first full season with their involvement in the team. Haas have had a fairly decent upturn in performance this season as a whole, but especially in these last few races since Toyota came in, that's probably just coincidence, but it's pretty cool to see. They of course got a double points finish most recently at the Mexican Grand Prix. The other big team change is that Adrian Newey will be joining the Aston Martin Formula 1 team. Now of course Adrian has been on gardening leave ever since he left the Red Bull team, but he will start at Aston Martin in March. So unfortunately he won't have had the impact throughout the winter to really step that team forward, but with changes to the car throughout the season we will see a bigger impact for that team aerodynamically, and then moving into 2026 of course it's an incredibly exciting time for Aston Martin. And who knows, we could see Fernando Alonso in a race winning car. Closer car performance. With us coming to the end of this regulation period, the teams essentially have as fast cars as they are able to make with these current regulations. And of course with 2026 right round the corner, teams will be focusing most of their development on that season. So for this season, what we're going to have is the teams as close to the limit as they can possibly be, and hopefully that's going to mean close racing between multiple different teams. Obviously the last time we saw a big technical regulation change, that was the 2022 season. The season before that was the 2021 season, and I don't think I need to say anything more about it in terms of how exciting every single race was that season. Obviously the way that this season has gone, ever since Max Verstappen stopped his win streak after the Spanish Grand Prix, it's been anyone's guess who's going to win the race going into every single weekend. And hopefully next season we're going to have that from the start. Ferrari on the rise, McLaren looking incredibly strong all season, Red Bull potentially bouncing back from this recent lull in form, Mercedes maybe coming back into the conversation. It's going to be absolutely beautiful to watch, and I can't wait to share it with you guys.